Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well, happy, and in good health. May God bless you with a long, prosperous life and protect you from all hardships. I pray for those who are struggling that their troubles ease, for the sick to find healing, and for those who've passed to rest in peace. Please keep me and my family in your prayers. Today I have a very scary story to share. This one comes from Canada, sent in by someone named Samuel. This story gave me goosebumps when I first read it, and now I'm going to tell it to you just the way he told me. So sit back, wear your headphones, turn off the lights if you dare, and let's begin. My name is Samuel, and I live in Canada. I often go to a farmhouse with my wife on weekends to relax. It's our peaceful little escape from the busy city. But what happened on one of those weekends changed everything. There's an old, abandoned house just across the road from our farmhouse. It's been closed for many years. Nobody lives there. But that night, something was different. It was late at night, and we were relaxing inside our farmhouse when suddenly, we heard strange noises as if someone was walking on the roof of the old house. At first, I thought maybe it was an animal, but it didn't sound like that. I told my wife, let's go check it out. So we stepped outside. The whole street was pitch dark, no street lights at all. But for some reason, the light bulb outside that old abandoned house was glowing. That bulb was never on before, and then we saw something. There was a woman standing in front of the house. She had long black hair, and her face was hard to see. But what really scared us was her eyes. They were glowing, and she was laughing loudly, like something from a nightmare. We were shocked. We didn't say a word. We turned and ran back to our farmhouse. We were too scared to leave, so we stayed inside and prayed the whole night. It was one of the longest nights of our lives. In the morning, we saw a man standing near the house. He looked like a local. I walked up and asked him, "Did anyone move into this house recently?" He looked surprised and said, "This house? It's been closed for 20 years. We told him what we saw last night. He laughed and said, "You must be joking. Maybe you were dreaming." He didn't believe us at all. That evening came, and we stayed again in the farmhouse. Everything felt calm until 1 a.m. We heard knocking on the farmhouse door. I looked out the window. No one was there. Then we heard crying, a soft woman's voice, full of pain. We opened the door carefully. Standing outside was a woman, crying. She looked broken, like she was hurt deeply. She told us, "My husband killed me 20 years ago and buried me in the basement of that house." She said, "My soul cries because no one gave me a proper burial. My children don't know what happened to me." We were frozen with fear. Before we could say anything, she disappeared. When we looked again, she was no longer a woman. We ran inside and locked the doors. Another long night, full of fear. A week later, we went back to the farmhouse, trying to be strong. Saturday and Sunday passed quietly. Nothing happened. We thought maybe it was all in our heads. Maybe our imagination was playing tricks on us. But when we were leaving the farmhouse on Sunday night, something strange happened again. My wife looked into the rearview mirror of the car and said, "There's smoke coming from the house." Just a light smoke, like fog, but it felt wrong, and soon it got worse. The road back home is very lonely, full of trees and no houses nearby. It was about 9 p.m. and the sky was dark. We turned on the car's beam lights to see better, and then we saw her. That same woman, standing in the middle of the road. Her face was twisted, and she was laughing loudly again. I slammed the brakes. My heart stopped, but when I looked again, she was gone. We sat in the car, not speaking. My wife started praying out loud. We were terrified. We finally took a deep breath and continued the drive, but it wasn't over. We suddenly heard a loud sound, footsteps on the roof of the car, like someone walking right above us. We thought maybe it was all in our heads. Maybe we were imagining it because of fear. But when we reached home, we were still scared. We didn't sleep that night either. 2 days later, I took the car for service. What the mechanic showed me, I still can't believe it. The roof of the car had 2 huge dents, foot-shaped marks, like someone had really been walking on the car. I started laughing, not because it was funny, but because I remembered the footsteps on the road home. I left the car with the mechanic and took a taxi home. I didn't want to touch that car again. I told everything to my wife, and we both agreed. That woman was the same one who cried outside our farmhouse. She wanted our help, and maybe we ignored her. After this, we finally decided we were going to sell that car. We didn't want anything to do with it anymore. Our friends didn't believe our story. They made jokes and said we were being dramatic, but we know what we saw. We know what we felt. Even now, while writing this story, I feel chills. My ears are ringing. I pray to God, please protect us from these dark spirits and from whatever that creature was. Let's move towards another story. Hi, I'm Ava. I live in a quiet town called Shelbyville in Indiana. About 15 years ago, we moved into a 2-story house near the edge of town. Back then, our neighborhood wasn't fully developed. Only a few houses lined the road, and nights were eerily quiet. It seemed like the perfect place to settle in and build a life. But from the very beginning, something felt off. I live with my parents and my younger sister, Lily. Sometimes my aunt and cousin would stay over for a few nights. The strange things started small. We'd hear footsteps on the stairs when no one was there. Doors would shut by themselves, but we chalked it up to old pipes, creaky wood, normal house stuff. Until one night, things went from weird to terrifying. We were all in the living room one evening. My aunt had come over with her daughter, Emily, who was around 6 years old. We were sitting near the hallway that leads to the downstairs bathroom. That's when my aunt suddenly went quiet and said, "Emily, what are you doing there?" Emily had walked into the hallway and was standing in front of the mirror, brushing her hair slowly. My aunt called out again, no response. Emily just kept brushing, then turned to look at us, expressionless, and walked away. Weird? Yeah, but here's the twist. Emily wasn't even home yet. 2 hours later, the doorbell rang. It was my uncle and Emily, just getting back from the grocery store. My aunt turned pale. She said, "But Emily was here earlier. She was brushing her hair in the hallway." My uncle shook his head and said, "No, she's been with me this whole time, and she was napping in the car." That's when it clicked. Whatever we saw, it wasn't Emily. That was the first big red flag, but not the last. A few nights later, my mom was upstairs in the kitchen cooking dinner. She looked out into the hallway and saw my dad walking into the guest room. So she followed him, calling his name. But when she turned on the light, the room was empty. She checked the bathroom, nothing. Then she heard the front door open downstairs. It was my dad, just walking in from outside with groceries in his hands. It's like something in this house mimics us. Even I've experienced it. I was 10 years old, sleeping in my room on the ground floor. I woke up around 3 a.m. to use the bathroom. There was a small light on the nightstand, just enough to make out shapes. When I looked across the room, near the TV, I saw a girl in white. She had long hair, and she was staring at the door. I thought it was my sister, Lily. I called out, "Lily, what are you doing?" No response. I sat up and looked harder. Her face was blurry, like static. When I stood up to get closer, she suddenly vanished. Just disappeared, like smoke. I wasn't dreaming. I was wide awake, and I watched her for a solid 5 minutes. Another time, my sister said she saw me walk into the kitchen, but I was upstairs in bed. One guest even woke up screaming after staying in the guest room. She said she saw an old man sitting in the backyard shed. He had a prayer book in his hands and told her, "Keep the house clean, don't make too much noise, and be people of God." She said when she woke up, she couldn't move for minutes, like she was being held down. We've come to believe that there's something spiritual in this house. something old. Maybe a family that once lived here and never left. They mimic us, walk like us, sometimes even talk like us. We've learned to live with it. We try to keep the house peaceful. We pray, and we try not to give them a reason to be angry. Let's move towards another story. Let me take you back about 3 or 4 years when everything in my life changed. At that time, we owned a cozy little home in a quiet town outside of Springfield, Missouri. But due to some financial issues, we had to sell it and move into a rented house just a couple streets over. Now here's the thing. That house, it had a reputation. People whispered about it being haunted. They said the previous tenants never lasted long. Weird things would happen. Voices, objects moving, doors unlocking by themselves. But me, I didn't believe in all that, at least not yet. About 10 days before our full move-in, we started shifting the big furniture. Since my fiancé was often working, I'd go there alone to organize things. At night, I'd sit in the living room and talk to my fiancé on the phone. There was this big window that faced a house across the lane. A house completely destroyed, abandoned for over 20 years. People warned me never to look too long at it. They said the house looked back at you. I always brushed it off. Until the night my friends stayed over. 2 of my closest friends finally agreed to help me stay over for the night. They started making fun of the rumors. But around 4 a.m., everything changed. My friend nudged me awake. "Dude, get up. Someone's walking outside." I sat up groggily thinking he was still joking. But then I heard it. Heavy footsteps just outside the door, pacing back and forth. Another friend looked up at the ceiling and said, "Something just moved up there." And then, the front door slowly creaked open. We all froze. That door was locked. No breeze, no draft, nothing could explain it. Without thinking, I jumped up and shouted, "Put your shoes on, we're leaving now." We left just before sunrise. After that, I refused to sleep there alone again. Eventually, the rest of my family moved in. And while the big things didn't happen again, strange, little things did. Like items disappearing from the fridge, utensils moved, bones from the garbage would vanish, and the dolls. My little sister had this doll. I left it on my desk, facing away from me. But every time I'd wake up, its face would be turned, looking right at me. One night, I was sleeping and opened my eyes, and I swear that doll had moved closer. Its eyes were almost glowing, like it knew I was watching. I bolted out of the room and didn't go back in until morning. But it didn't stop there. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps in the kitchen when no one was home. Doors slamming, soft whispers in the hallway. The final straw? I started coming home late from work, around 2:30 a.m., and every night, I'd feel someone walking behind me, matching my pace, closer and closer until I reached the front door. I'd look back. No one. But the feeling never left me. After a year and a half, the landlord sold the house, and we moved. But those memories, they moved with me. So friends, these were the stories for today. If you enjoyed them, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next chilling tale. If you have a real-life experience of your own, send it to the email listed in the description. We might feature your story next. Until then, sleep with the lights on, and remember, some houses never forget who entered them. Good night.